Anyone who's been to a bar or shop for a little bit of booze knows that spirits come in families. Whiskeys, tequilas, rums. But what if I told you there was a whole category most folks in this part of the world have barely even heard of? It's a Dutch spirit called Genever, or Genever, if you want to be fancy. I think I've served thousands, if not millions of drinks from behind the bar over the past decade plus as a bartender. Now, I've decided to dig a little deeper and discover the magic and the humans behind the booze-making process. I'm Tommy the Bartender, and this is Story of the Spirit. Back home in Dallas, Genever could use a little bit more love, because even some of the best mixologists I know, they just don't get to work with it a lot.
Patience, what do you know about Genever?
Not a whole lot, actually. I'm kind of intimidated because I haven't played with it much. I had a bottle or two at the place that I currently work that's been sitting there for I don't even know how long, a light layer of dust collecting on it.
So there might be a little dust on the bottle, but don't let that fool you. What's that old saying? It's what's on the inside that counts? Just ask Joe, the GM at Bowen House, an historic cocktail bar here in Dallas.
One of my favorite things is kind of introducing people to something that they're not used to.
Genever's underdog status is just one of the things Joe likes about it.
It's one of my favorites. It's been around for hundreds of years, so not a lot of people know about it. It's very malted spirit, heavy on juniper, a lot of other botanicals as well. It's just a really unique spirit.
All right, and if you're like me, you just gotta know more about the stuff. Luckily, there happens to be a group from Europe that tours the world preaching the gospel of Genever. And they flew little old me out to Washington, D.C. to learn more. So, after some obligatory sightseeing, I headed to the Eden Hotel for the Genever Crusade. And that's where I met Dennis, who works for Spirits NL, the Dutch Spirits Trade Association.
Genever is very important to us. It's the most relevant spirit that the Netherlands has made and produced over decades and centuries, actually. It's a protected geographical indication.
And that means, like the Champagne region of France or tequila in Mexico's Jalisco region, Genever can only be made in the region that was the Netherlands.
In the Netherlands, Belgium, and I think little parts in France and 2 Bundesländer in Germany. So it is protected, and only there you can produce it, and otherwise you cannot call it Genever. Hi everybody, welcome. Enjoy Genever, enjoy the Dutch hospitality, and let's get rolling.
Along with Schiedam, a Dutch shuffleboard game. That hospitality also included lessons from experts on all things Genever.
So what is Genever? What do we have in front of us? Genever is malt spirit plus juniper plus botanicals. So basically, Genever fills the gap between whiskey and gin. It can be either aged or unaged.
Danny here has been a Genever crusader for over 4 years now.
Prost, cheers. People are like, yeah, malt spirit plus juniper plus other botanicals, like, sounds like gin. And I'm like, well, they might be made from the same raw materials, but with Genever we're using malt spirit, and that retains the flavor of those raw grains that are being distilled. I think the most important thing is that Genever isn't just one thing. There's really such a wide range. I mean, you have stuff that's as like fresh and floral and botanical as London dry style gin. You have some stuff that's as like robust and malty as, whiskey.
If somebody that doesn't like the really mature barrel-aged Genevers and he gets that for the first time, he will say, or she will say that she doesn't like, or he doesn't like Genever.
At least one guest here had exactly that experience.
To be perfectly frank, the only time I knew Genever was one time a friend went to Amsterdam and brought over a bottle of Genever, and I tasted it, and I was like, this is the worst thing I've ever tasted.
Therefore, actually, this is really beautiful that we're doing today, is that they can taste all the differences that the different styles of Genever have.
I was like, this stuff is actually really fun. Now I love this stuff. This is amazing.
For everybody, there's a certain style in there that you prefer.
It's a choose your own adventure, and there is something for everyone.
Unfortunately, it's not every day you get a chance to try the whole lineup, but I was able to bring a little bit of that tasting experience back to my friends in Dallas.
So right away, this one's much maltier off the nose. Kind of very different. Light, floral, citrusy, juniper, bowl of cereal.
I lived the nose of this one? This one is very light, grapefruit, almost piney flavor profile to it. Ooh.
It's hard not to find a favorite when you taste your way through the lineup. Joe's choice was the one that was aged in a barrel, whiskey style.
This combines a lot of qualities that I really, really love in both whiskey and gin. Being barrel aged, you get a lot of that oak on the nose and on the palate. It's very malty, which is something I prefer in a Genever. But you do get juniper, you do get those like floral notes that expect out of a gin. And I definitely would just drink this by itself. It's just fun to use in cocktails.
Speaking of cocktails, the experts in Washington were on hand introducing us all to Genever versions of some classic cocktails.
All right, so the Dutch and Stormy. It's obviously a twist with the aged Genever.
Side note, the dashing gentleman you see here is the Crusade's master mixologist, Ivar. I had a chance to learn a few cocktails from him one-on-one, but that's a story for a different day.
And this would be yours?
The bartenders here also got plenty of inspiration for new cocktails to try.
I would honestly put this in an old-fashioned style. I didn't remember that it was specifically a malted spirit, which was really awesome. That helped me to place where Genever kind of stands. They bridge between gin and whiskey. To play around with lots of different bitters, we can add a lot of different flavors to it. You can play around with the different type of sugars, so you can either do like a honey or a demerara syrup that can also boost up what Genever kind of tastes like.
And hey, great minds think alike.
I got a little something for you. Genever Old Fashioned with a sage syrup, a little bit of grapefruit bitters. Kind of bring out that citrus in the Genever. A little bit of that sweetness from that sage, but again, still very like herbaceous. People get stuck behind this idea that old fashions have to be whiskey. A Genever Old Fashioned keeps the cocktail still really crisp.
Oh yeah. If you think about old fashions, you would not think about an old fashioned for a summertime thing.
Right.
But this would be good even sitting on a patio.
It's not like a wintertime, in a dark bar cocktail. It's not your grandfather's cocktail.
Joe, meanwhile, took a different but equally delicious approach.
If someone walked into Bowen House and they wanted to have a Genever cocktail, I'm going equal parts Genever, bitter aperitivo, and sweet vermouth. You might think of that as a Negroni riff. I think more along the lines of Boulevardier because of all the whiskey aspects that do come with a Genever, especially barrel-aged. The Genever should shine through brilliantly. You should get juniper, you should get the maltiness. You should also get all the botanicals from the vermouth and just that slight bitterness on the back end with the aperitivo, kind of touching all points of your palate.
And it's all those points. I mean, it's bitter, a little bit sweet, malty, citrusy, that bridge between like the Negroni and the Boulevardier.
And if it doesn't have a name, I feel like Tom's Diner. Sounds good to me.
Tom's Diner,
Yeah.
I love it.
So, after the shuffleboard, the history lesson, and of course the cocktails, I think the craziest thing here is the fact that this stuff isn't more popular in the States.
It's an underrepresented category here in the United States. Like when I was back home in Kentucky trying to buy a bottle of Genever to make Martinez's for my mom, I couldn't find a bottle anywhere in town. And this was in like the second biggest town in Kentucky. And so I just didn't revisit it again because it's not something that's here. It's not something that's readily available, right? If I saw it on a cocktail menu, I wouldn't be like, ugh, no. But you just don't know. You don't have the exposure.
But it wasn't always that way.
Genever was out here pretty big. It was our biggest export product before the Prohibition. So then the Prohibition started, and afterwards actually the Genever was put aside and it was being taken over by gin, which is really a totally different spirit.
So with this crusade, with this event, what will be the biggest takeaway that you'd like people to get from this particular conference?
There's one thing that I really would like people to take away, and that is actually that Genever belongs in there, It has its own spot between the whiskey on the one side and gin on the other. It is the European forgotten spirit that we also call our crusade, but it must have its place. It's so important, and it has its versatility and, the different flavors, and it's so beautiful in certain cocktails. So I hope that the people understand that again, and that Genever has its way back into the cocktails. That's our important takeout. And that they enjoy the Dutch hospitality.
There we go. It's a nice reintroduction to an old friend. I love it.
Yeah, cheers.
And who knows, maybe that old friend will catch on again.
As bartenders, we set the pace for what guests will drink, you know? Like if we introduce it in a palatable way, like cocktails, gin drinkers, you know, martini drinkers. I think whiskey drinkers would even really enjoy, especially the barrel aged would really enjoy Genever as well.
If you can't find it at your local neighborhood watering hole, we've got usually a couple different varieties of Genever here at Bowen House, and we'd love to make you a drink.
I hope that we get some guests that are just interested in that random bottle that we have over there, and they're like, what's that? Can you make something with that?
Yeah, just knock that dust off and pour away, man.